Welcome to the third and final part of this three-part series of videos where we have firstly shown you how to place the loudspeakers in the room, and then secondly how to measure the loudspeakers in the room, and now in this third part we're going to show you how to use advanced adaptation in A control to calibrate the loudspeakers in the room. So here we are in Adam Audio A control. We've gone to the advanced adaptation mode, and in advanced adaptation we can see 6 bands of parametric EQ. This allows us to change the type of filter, frequency, the gain and the Q. And Q is a measure of how wide the filter is. So a high Q value is a narrow filter and a low Q value is a wide filter. So what we see in the frequency response is a fairly wide bump between 100 and 300 Hertz. And what we'll do is we'll attenuate that. So we're going to use 2 filters for this because it's not a very symmetrical bump. So we'll start at the bottom end, and with the first filter, which is actually the second one, the parametric EQ, we're going to set that to 115 Hertz, a gain of -6, which sounds like a lot, but this will work quite nicely when we see the final result. And then a Q of 3.5, so not too narrow, not too wide. The second filter, we're going to center that on 165 Hertz. The gain is -2, so a lot smaller, and then the Q is 4, so a similar Q value. So moving further up the response, we see a bit of a bump just above 300 Hertz. So let's take another filter, which is the fourth one in advanced EQ. And here we have selected 310 Hertz with a gain of -1.5, so not a very big filter here, and then a Q of 6, so a little bit narrower filter, but not too narrow. And then the next filter we will apply is for that wide bump that you see that's actually caused by the desk. It's a bunch of reflections off the desk. And so we're going to center this on 515 Hertz, so somewhere in the middle of the dip, and then with a gain of 4 and a Q of 2.5. So this is quite a wide filter, and we're going to lift that bump up and try and make the response flat. So now we have quite a flat response from 100 Hertz all the way up to very high frequency. You can see that below 100 Hertz we still see a bit of lack of bass compared to the rest of the response, and so we're going to recover some of that by adding a shelving filter set to 90 Hertz with a gain of +3.5 dB and a Q of 1, and that gives us a nice lift below 100 Hertz. And now you can see that the final result of the response is not bad at all. Now we mustn't forget that in a stereo system we also have a right loudspeaker. The installation here is symmetrical, so we have a symmetrical placement in a symmetrical room and symmetrical acoustical treatment in the room. So we can simply copy the left settings that we've already made into the right loudspeaker. This means that the phase response of both loudspeakers will be the same, and we should get a very good image. And you see on the screen, the result is that the 2 loudspeakers are pretty much the same as each other. So we've calibrated our system, but this is only the frequency domain. What we also experience when we're listening to sound is the time domain. And so to visualize that, we're going to use a waterfall plot, or its more technical name is a cumulative spectral decay. So what we see in a cumulative spectral decay is the sound decaying over time once the loudspeaker has stopped playing audio. So as we move closer and closer to the front of the graph, we see later and later in time. So the original response is at the back of the graph, and later in time is at the front. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you see the before calibration waterfall plots, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you see the after calibration waterfall plot. And what you see here is that the whole mid-range time decay has shortened, and that's due to the treatment that we put into the room. So the sound is decaying a lot faster now, and that will aid the clarity of our audio. And then you see at low frequencies, there is some modal behavior in the room, which we've not been able to treat in this case. And you see there's, on the right-hand side, the after calibration plot, there's some evidence of some resonance at around about 100 Hertz. And that's not too long, so I'm not too worried about it. This room will sound quite tight and punchy and very revealing. And then just one final check at the end. We can go back to the original response we had, and you can see how it is somewhat flatter than it was before, and that's a huge understatement. This is going to sound a lot more transparent. You're going to hear all of the details. There's going to be a lot less masking, and this is now a well-performing studio monitoring system. Thank you for watching this series of videos. We hope you enjoyed them and also learned something at the same time. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and we'll try to answer them as fast as possible.